Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna. So let's continue. So we stopped at 39. It's just another 6 or 10 shlokas and then we will be done. Okay, we will be done with prayers by Prahlad Maharaj. जिह्वैकतो अच्युत विकर्षति मा वित्तिर्ता शिष्णो अन्यतास्त्वग् उदरं श्रवणं कुतश्चात् घ्राणो अन्यताश्चपलधृक्वा कर्मशक्तिर्भव्या सपत्न्या इव गेहपतिं लुनन्ति. My dear Lord, O infallible one, my position is like that of a person who has many wives, all trying to attract him in their own way. For example, the tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, the genitals to sex with an attractive woman, and the sense of touch to contact with sense of touch to contact with soft things. The belly, although fixed, still wants to eat more, and the ear, not attempting to hear about you, is generally attracted to cinema songs. The sense of smell is attracted to yet another side. The restless eyes are attracted to scenes of sense gratification, and the active eyes are attracted elsewhere. In this way, I'm certainly embarrassed. Can anybody read the purport, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji, shall I?
Yeah, you can read, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The human form of life is meant for God realization, but this process, which begins with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, is disturbed as long as our senses are materially attracted. Therefore, devotional service means purifying the senses. In the conditioned state, our senses are covered by material sense gratification, and as long as one is not trained in purifying the senses, one cannot become a devotee. In our Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, we advise from the very beginning that one restrict the activities of the senses, especially the tongue, which is described by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura as most greedy and unconquerable. To stop this attraction of the tongue, one is authoritatively advised not to accept meat or similar uneatable things, not to allow the tongue to hanker to drink or smoke. Even the drinking of tea and coffee is not permitted. Similarly, the genitals must be restricted from illicit sex. Without such restraint of the senses, one cannot make advancement in Krishna consciousness. The only method of controlling the senses is to chant and hear the holy name of the Lord. Otherwise, one will always be disturbed as a householder with more than one wife would be disturbed by them for sense gratification. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. See, very interesting. Prahlad states, what does he say? We are all like, my position is like that of a person who has many wives. Who is saying this? Such an exalted devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. If he can say this, what about us? Right? He's being so humble, right? It's not even humble. I mean, he's actually representing all of us, right? And he's saying, my position is just like a person with many wives, right? And who are the wives here? The different senses that we all have, right? Like he says, tongue is attracted to palatable dishes, right? Although it's not prasadam, although it's not vegetarian food, we get attracted and we kind of eat. We sort of eat what we are not supposed to eat, right? Because lack of control on the tongue, right? And Prabhupada says tongue is the first and the most important senses to be controlled, right? Everything else falls into place if tongue is controlled. Can you imagine? See, if you see tongue, tummy, and genitals, right? They all lie in the same line. That means what? If tongue is controlled, right, the remaining organs will automatically fall into control, right? So it begins with tongue means not just eating; it's about talking also. Vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udropastha vegam, etan vegam vishaheta dira, sarvam apimam prithvim sashishyat. The nectar of instruction explains. Vacho vega means tongue, the vega of the tongue, right? Not only to eat, it's also about speaking. No, not no, talking unnecessarily, right? Talking today, even NND Prabhu was taking the class, right? I mean, yesterday's class. Duplicity, right? We have to control pravritti, nivritti. There are two types of ways. Pravritti marga is stated in the Vedas. That means you can enjoy, but under regulations, right? But nivritti marga is give it up completely, right? And when you take up nivritti marga, that is the marga explained by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, progress is quicker, right, compared to pravritti marga, right? Uh, you have to talk, not that we have to do mauna vrat, but how do we have to talk? Priyam hitam, satyam priyam hitam, right? Talk the truth, speak the truth, priyam in a polite way, right? That shouldn't hurt anybody, and hitam should be beneficial, right? You cannot talk something for just for the sake of pleasing someone, right? If it's not benefiting that person or you or others, right? So satyam, priyam, hitam, these three things we need to follow, okay? And do not talk unnecessarily. If tongue is given proper regulations and strict rest, right, without talking unnecessarily and all that, then mind also stops to think. Mind, it's like an itching process. Mind thinks, and some or the other way the tongue has to put it out, otherwise that person just can't live, right? Sometimes we all go through this, right? But if that urge, that is a momentary urge, if you can control, then your entire day will be peaceful, right? That's urge of speaking, vacho vegam. Then manasa krodha vegam. Manasa vegam is mind, right? Whatever mind says, you don't have to do, right? You have the willpower. No, I will not do it, and you can shut your mind up, right? That is what we fail to do. Then anger. If you can't control this much, then automatically anger will happen, right? And we all fail to control anger a lot of times. And then urges of tongue. This is Jihva Vegam. This is about eating, right? Eatables. Vacho is speaking, and the other urges of tongue is eating. Eating every other thing. Instead of eating every other thing, we need to eat prasadam. Mostly, first level is quit non-veg, right? Eat only vegetarian food. Second level is quit even onion garlic, right? Eat only sattvic food. Third level, and the most important and the most important level is, even if it is sattvic, if it is not prasadam, do not eat, right? It has to be cooked in a proper way, right, by a vegetarian person who chants preferably 16 rounds, right? In a proper consciousness it has to be cooked, okay? Thinking that, okay, I'm cooking this for Krishna, and then it has to be offered to Krishna, and then it has to be accepted as prasadam. So that is the third and the highest level. So, if we reach this third level, right, of eating only prasadam, not eating anything else, right, not buying things from outside and offering it to the Lord and saying, oh, it's prasadam, I can have. No, that is all shortcuts, right? So, when you eat properly cooked food, or you can personally cook, right, this is the third level. If you can do this, right, no, you don't have to even think about controlling other organs or other senses, right? Everything else will automatically fall into place because you're eating Krishna Prasadam. Krishna Prasadam means Krishna himself, right? So when you have this, then what happens? The urge to speak, mind's demands, anger, belly, genitals, everything will fall into place, right? We have to practice this, like make it a point to do this every day. All right. So Bhishma Dev explains in Canto 1, right? Passing away of Bhishma. So Bhishma Dev explains how to control different urges or different problems that we have, right? Anger. So Bhishma Dev explains all this to Yudhishthira. Okay, so Yudhishthira goes and asks for advice. Okay, I'm now enthroned. I don't know how to rule. I don't know what to do, right? What are the rules? What are the regulations? What are the principles I need to rely on to rule this world, right? Because he's an emperor now, right? Mahabharat war has finished, and Yudhishthir has become the winner, and he will be the ruling king, emperor, right? So Bhishma Dev says how different people are supposed to be instructed in different ways. As a king, it is Yudhishthira's duty to ensure the citizens are following everything properly, right? So here Bhishma Dev says how to control anger. When you learn to forgive, right? Only when you do not forgive, then we will get angry. When some mistake happens, it's okay. Everybody will do mistakes, right? When that, out of duty you have to get angry. Like if you have a child who is making mistakes, right, repetitively, then it is your duty to get angry. If you don't get angry, then you're making a mistake, right? But that anger, whether it is out of duty or whether it is out of right or authority, it has to be superficial. Okay, that anger shouldn't affect other things in your life, right? So my Siksha Guru used to give an example, right? So he was actually a lecturer, okay, in a college. So so as a lecturer he has to get angry. It is his duty, right, when students don't do things properly. So he used to say that anger should be out of duty and it should be superficial, right? If I'm shouting at one student, I should ensure that anger doesn't affect other students. I need to talk politely with other students, and it shouldn't affect my work. Sometimes the teachers get so angry. Next class, when they go to take, they carry that previous impression in that class and they start shouting, right? I should ensure that doesn't happen. So that Siksha Guru, he used to say all this. So that's how anger has to be. Out of duty, you have to do it, right? But you should not get carried away by anger, right? So that is very important. Then unlawful desires, right? Do not make plans. When you make plans and though they don't work out, then we feel distressed, we feel frustrated. Oh, it didn't happen this way, right? These are all kind of lust only, right? What is lust? Lust means something that you want is not happening. You're not getting what you want. That is lust, right? Lust means you want something, right? And when you don't get what happens, that lust gets transformed to anger. Okay, so then so do not make plans. Do not, leave it to Krishna, right? He is the plan maker. And then sleep you can overcome by spiritual culture, waking up early, going to the bed early, right? So all this comes with the culture. You need to culture yourself. And then desires and avarice, how do you tolerate, overcome this? By tolerance, right? Tolerance and forgive is kind of same only, right? Forgiving and tolerating is kind of same. Without complaining, you have to tolerate everything, right? Even Krishna says, right, tolerate, Arjuna, tolerate, just tolerate, right? That's what he says. And Stam Sitikshava Bharata, right? Titikshava, tolerate, right? That's what Krishna says. And then disturbances from diseases. So, not that we will not get diseases, right? We all will get diseases. But to some extent, you can actually prevent a lot of diseases, right? Or even cure a lot of diseases with proper regulated diets, right? So this and how do you think so many devotees, Prabhupada's disciples, they are living for 90 years, 80 years? How do you think? And they travel all over the world. Not that they are living in one place. No, they travel all over the world and they preach and all that, right? How do you think they are doing that? With regulated diets, right? It's only because of the sattvic food and only prasadam, right? Not eating everything that is sold on the road and things like that, or restaurants, right? They have proper diet and everything, right? That helps their livelihood also, well-being as well, right? So even if you want to eat outside food, go for prasadam centers. Okay, there are a lot of ISKCON prasadam centers, right? Restaurants which sell only prasadam. So we can have there, right? It's sattvic, it'll be clean, cleanliness will be maintained, it'll be offered to the Lord. That's most important, right? So all that is there. And then false hopes, right? We all live in false hopes. How do we come out of that? By self control. Consciously, you need to remind yourself, right? You are not the plan maker, Krishna is the plan maker, right? And then saving money can be saved by avoiding undesirable association. Okay, then hunger. Hunger can be saved by practice of yoga. Like yesterday we have Vaikuntha Ekadashi, right? We can't, yeah, we will feel hungry, but we know the way to control that hunger, right? So many devotees, actually senior and exalted devotees, they don't even feel the hunger. Why? They forget that they are hungry because they are completely engaged in devotional service. On Ekadashi, the kind of fasting we need to do is, oh, not that, oh, I need to not eat today, so I'm not eating. No, the kind of mindset we have to have while fasting is that I'm doing so much of seva, today is Ekadashi, that there is no time only to eat. So no need to eat, right? That is the kind of fasting we need to do on Ekadashis, right? So many devotees, they do that, they go for book distribution and so many other things that they don't feel the hunger, right? So that is due to practice of hunger, yoga. And then worldliness, right? The external world that we are in. How do you reduce that attachment? By culturing knowledge of impermanence. Very important. Bhagavad Gita, first instruction that Krishna gives is, you're not the soul, I mean, you're not the body or the soul. Body is impermanent, right? It will die one day, but the soul doesn't, right? So this is something we have to culture, right? Knowledge of impermanence, and live our life with that, fact in our mind, right? And then dizziness is by rising up. False arguments, factual ascertainment, right? How do you cut out false arguments? Proclaim it, I mean, show it, point out from the Shastras, take the information, and factual ascertainment. With that, you can overcome false arguments. And then talkativeness by gravity and silence, right? Talk only when it is necessary, otherwise, simply don't do prajalpa, right? Prajalpo niyamagraha, jalasangascha, laulyamscha, shadbir, bhaktir, vinishyati, right? It will destroy the bhakti, prajalpa and talkativeness. And then what else? Fearfulness, that can be overcome by prowess. And then perfect knowledge by self cultivation. So here we need to understand one thing. Perfect knowledge is not reading. Knowledge is when you have implemented what you have read. That means knowledge, right? Knowledge is not, reading a lesson, but implementing that lesson in your life. Then your knowledge becomes complete. Knowledge without realization is just a bunch of shlokas or translations that you have in your mind. That's it, right? That's why Bhishmadev says over here, self cultivation. Implement it, cultivate yourself, right? That culture in yourself, right? That spiritual culture where you start implementing what Prabhupada has told us. Only then knowledge becomes perfect knowledge, right? So these are the things we can overcome. Um, all the bad things or bad habits that we have. I think this helps, right? And then so one tip, right, that Prabhupada also gives, even Krishna says, right, in Bhagavad Gita, be like a tortoise, Arjuna, Krishna says, right? So what does tortoise do? If you have noticed, can anybody tell me what this animal is doing over here? What is happening here? What is this animal doing? Hmm? You can put your answers in the chat also. Yeah?
Extending its neck, Mataji.
Extending his neck. What are the other things you can see? Other organs?
Its legs and tail.
Yeah, so all the
And
limbs and senses are all out, right? Because this tortoise is actually probably going and catching some food to eat or anything, right? Something like that. So it's in full force now. It's functioning, right? But after some time, the tortoise will become like this, right? So what has happened? Anybody?
it is trying to protect itself.
It's trying to protect itself, okay? But what has happened?
It has retracted its limbs back into its shell.
Exactly, right? So previously, all the organs were visible, the limbs, the face, the senses, eyes, everything. Right now, including the tail, everything has gone inside the shell. Right? So tortoise does this. Tortoise comes out from its shell only for a purpose, maybe for eating or something. That's it. Rest every 90% of the day, the tortoise is like this. Right? It's just completely within itself, right? Similarly, Krishna explains this, right? It's not by some worldly person. Krishna himself states this in Bhagavad Gita, right? 2.58, he says, you need to be like tortoise, right? Take out your senses, use the senses only for some particular purpose. And then after that, you take it back, right? Put it inside. So, what does this mean? That means use your senses only for some particular activity in Krishna consciousness, right? So if some bad thought is coming into your mind, you have to withdraw your mind, put it back into the shell, like the tortoise, right? What do you have to say? No, no, now I'm not doing any bhakti, so I'm not supposed to think about all this, right? And this is a bad thing. I'm not supposed to think about it. So you have to consciously remind yourself, right? That means you and mind are two different things. You are the soul, mind is something else. Mind is your subtle body, right? When mind is doing something and it is not favorable for your Krishna consciousness progress, then it is your duty to remind the mind, right? So soul, right? Soul has more control. When mind starts controlling the soul, then mind will become your enemy and you will go into the bad track. But when soul starts controlling the mind, then mind will become the soul's best friend, right? Bandhuratmatmanasya tasya. uh, there's a shloka, no? What does that say? Mind becomes your best friend. Bandhur, right? Bandhur. Mind becomes your best friend when you start controlling the mind. And mind becomes your best enemy when mind starts controlling you, right? So you have to use your senses only for that particular activity, and reach controlling your mind is the last level, right? We need to begin with controlling our gross senses, right? The eyes, the ears, the tongue, the nose, and the skin touch, right? These five things, when you control and make that a habit, then mind automatically starts getting controlled, right? That's why Prabhupada did not say sit and do mantra meditation, chant Shuddhanam. Prabhupada never said that. Prabhupada said, first hear the Shuddhana, hear the holy name of the Lord. Right? When your ears are controlled, when your hearing is controlled, then what you hear goes to your mind, and then your talking will be based on what you hear, right? What you listen, only you talk. Based on that, you generate thoughts, and based on those thoughts only you start talking, right? So it begins with your hearing. You engage your ears first, then your tongue will get engaged favorably in Krishna consciousness, right? And then when you engage your tongue favorably, giving your tongue only prasadam, giving your tongue only good things to talk, right? Some kirtanam or some, lecture, a scripture reading or something like this. What happens? The other senses also will gradually get controlled, right? So this is what we need to understand. Sense control is not easy, but we can make it easy by making sure your senses are used for something, something good, something worthy, right? Not something bad or something material, right? Something worthy, that is something about Krishna, something Krishna conscious, right? Then your senses will become senses are used properly. Otherwise your senses will just be, Prabhupada says, no, if you've not become a devotee, or if you do not want to become a devotee, such people are just walking dead bodies, Prabhupada says, right? So your senses just become rudimentary if you don't use it for Krishna consciousness. Now, as long as one is not trained in purifying the senses, one cannot become a devotee. This is a line from the purport, right? So here, Prabhupada says, as long as you're not trained in purifying the senses, you cannot become a devotee. Why do you think Prabhupada is saying this? Why should we purify our senses? Why should we engage control our senses?
Because without that, we cannot think of the Lord all the time, Mataji. And we have to center the
Exactly.
Lord in all our
Yeah.
functions.
Yeah. So if you're say for example, you want to go back home, back to Godhead, right? Back to Goloka, but your eyes want to watch TV, your ears want to listen to cinema songs, Bollywood songs, your tongue wants to taste say non-veg food, right? Then how can you go back home, back to Godhead? Because you're accumulating karma, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? Science has also proved this. So to face that reaction, you have to come to this world. You don't have any choice. How will you go back home, back to Godhead? Right? Only the esham tva antagatam papam. Right? Antagatam papam. Only when you end doing all the papa, right? When you stop the sinful reaction, sinful actions, then your sinful reactions will stop. Right? Then we can think about going back home, back to Godhead. To stop that sinful activity, you have to tame, literally not train, tame your senses, right? Literally tame your senses and make sure your senses are invested only in something Krishna conscious, right? And then you can go back home, back to Godhead, right? So here is a very nice line. The day Trishna, right, is finished, that day holy name will be nectar. Otherwise, we cannot chant. When you chant, if your senses are not controlled, if you're just continuing to eat non-vegetarian food and do that and do this, then while chanting, all those thoughts only will come. You can never focus on the holy name, right? So the day the hunger for sense enjoyment is finished, that day holy name will be nectar, right? That day will actually feel the holy name, right? Feel the sweetness in the holy name. Now it's just mechanical process. Oh, we have to chant, we are chanting. But that sense, hunger for sense enjoyment should go. Sense enjoyment is not only on the gross level. It's easy to come out of the gross level, right? You can become vegetarian in one moment. Okay, some people do not find it difficult. They can leave, they can stop drinking, they can stop smoking, all that they can stop. But on the subtle level, right? Anger, lust, greed, right? Thinking bad about a person, right? Duplicitous. Yeah, you have a bad opinion, or you're not having a good opinion about a person, but you're forced to talk good, right? And that means you're pretending, right? Duplicitous behavior. Talking ill about a person, right? Talking bad about a person in that person's absence. These bad habits, these are very, very difficult to overcome, right? These are subtle, these are even more difficult, right? How will all of them go? Again, the only medicine is engaging your gross senses in Krishna conscious activities. Ears for hearing Krishna katha. Tongue for again something in Krishna consciousness, right? Eyes, again something to do with Krishna. See the scripture, see the Lord, see the beautiful form of the Lord, right? Only when you engage your gross, that's the beginning. Then your subtle mind, subtle body will also start getting purified, but takes time, right? And then chanting is a wonderful weapon, right? You have to continue to chant Cheto Darpana Marjanam, whether you like it or not. Nowadays, right now, we are not liking it, right? The sweetness is not coming, but we have to chant, we have to continue. Now we need to do it now as a matter of sadhana or practice, right? Just do it whether you like it or not. But gradually what happens, you will actually start liking it. Okay, that day will come, we have to wait, right? Yeah, start from tongue. The most greedy and unconquerable is tongue, right? We have to start from tongue. And how do you start from tongue, right? Only by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord. That is very important, right? Shravanam kirtanam, shravanam kirtanam, shravanam kirtanam, that's it. And then your whole life will actually uh, start becoming Krishna conscious, right? mm, Next shloka. Evam swakarma patitam bhavavit vaitaranyam अन्यन्यो जन्मा मरणाशान भीति भीतम पश्यांजनं स्वपरा विग्रह वैरमैत्रम हन्तेति पाराचर विफ्रिमूढमाद्या. My dear Lord, you are always transcendently situated on the other side of the river of death. But because of the reactions of our own activities, we are suffering on this side. Indeed, we have fallen into this river and are repeatedly suffering the pains of birth and death and eating horrible things. Now, kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also upon all others who are suffering, and by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. Can anybody read the pulpit? Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Prahlada Maharaja, a pure Vaishnava, prayed to the Lord not only for himself but for all other suffering living entities. There are two classes of Vaishnavas, the Bhajanandatis and the Kostiyanandis. The Bhajanandatis worship the Lord only for their own personal benefit, but for the Kostiyanandis try to elevate all other to Krishna consciousness so that they may be saved. Fools who cannot perceive repeated birth and death and the other miseries of materialistic life cannot be sure of what will happen to them in their next birth. Indeed, these foolish materially contaminated rascals have manufactured an irresponsible way of life that does not consider the next life. They do not know that according to one's own activities, one receives a body selected from 8,400,000 species. These rascals have been described in Bhagavad Gita as Tuskridino Mudaha. Non-devotees, those who are not Krishna conscious, must engage in sinful activities and therefore they are mudas, fools and rascals. They are such fools that they do not know what will happen to them in their next life. Although they see varieties of living creatures eating abominable things, pigs eating stool, crocodile eating all kinds of flesh, and so on. They do not realize that they themselves, because of their practice of eating all kinds of nonsense in this life, will be destined to eat the most abominable things in their next life. A Vaishnava is always afraid of such an abominable life, and to free himself from such horrible conditions, he engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord is compassionate to them, and therefore he appears for their benefit. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijami aham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself. Bhagavad Gita 4.7. The Lord is always ready to help the fallen souls, but because there are fools and rascals, they do not take to Krishna consciousness and abide by the instruction of Krishna. Therefore, although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally the Supreme Lord Krishna, he comes as a devotee to preach the Krishna consciousness movement. Yare dekha, tare kaha, Krishna Ubadesa. One must therefore become a sincere servant of Krishna. Amara Agnaya Guru Anatara Ye Desha. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Matthew Lila 7.128. One should become a guru and spread Krishna consciousness all over the world simply by preaching the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. 1 second. We will do the next shloka also. को अन्वत्र ते अखिल गुरु भगवान् परा प्रयासा उत्तरणे अस्य भवा सम्भवलोपहेतो मुधेषु वै महादनुग्रहार्थबन्धो किं तेन ते प्रियजनान् अनुशेवतां नाह. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you, you who manage the affairs of the universe, in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotion service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for the great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore, I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Yeah, Puppet? Who wants to read?
Hare Krishna Madhuri.
Yeah.
Here
Read.
the verse Priya Jana Anusevata na indicates that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instruction of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. This is the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who shows us the way to become Gobi Bhartuha, Bhada Kamalayo, Dasa Dasanu Dasaha. One should not be proud by becoming directly the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, one must seek a pure devotee, a servant of the Lord, and engage oneself in the service of the such servant. Yeah. The more one becomes the servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. This is also the injunction of Bhagavad Gita. Evam parambara praptam imam rajarsiyo viduha. One can understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the parambara system. In this regard, Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura says, Tandera Charana Chevi Bhakta Sana Vasa. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord and let me live with the devotees. Janame Janame Haya. Ye Abhilasha. Following Narottama Dasa Thakura, one should aspire to be servant of the Lord's servant, life after life. Srila Bhakti Vinoda Thakura also sings, Tumi Ta Thakura, Tomara Pura, Baliya Janaha Janaha More. O my Lord, O Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. One must become the dog of Vaishnava. A pure devotee, for a pure devotee can deliver Krishna without difficulty. Krishna se tomara, Krishna ite para, para. Krishna is the property of his pure devotee. And if he takes shelter of pure devotee, he can deliver Krishna very easily. Prahlada wants to engage in the service of a devotee and therefore he prays to Krishna, my dear Lord, kindly give me the shelter of your very dear devotee so that I may engage in his service and you may then be pleased. Matbhakta Bhuja Vyadika Bhagavatam 11.19.21. The Lord says, engaging in the service of my devotee is better than trying to engage in my devotional service. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlada Maharaja does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in this material world may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow, and thus Prahlada Maharaja wants to save the whole world by spreading Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we'll do next one also. And then we will see the explanation. नैवोद्विजे परतुरत्यया वैतरण्यास्तद्वीर्यगायना महामृतामग्नचित्ता शोचेततो विमुखचेतसा इन्द्रियार्था माया सुखाय भरम् उद्वहतो विमूढान्. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. For wherever I stay, I am fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. Yeah, Purport, anybody?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, you can read.
Throughout the entire world, everyone is making big plans to adjust the miseries of the material world, and this is true at present, in the past, and in the future. Nonetheless, although they make elaborate political, social, and cultural plans, they have all been described herein as Vimuda fools. The material world has been described in Bhagavad Gita as Dukhalayam Asvatam, temporary and miserable, but these fools are trying to turn the material world into Sukhalayam, a place of happiness, not knowing how everything acts by the arrangement of material nature, which works in her own way. Prakartha Kriyamaneni Gunai Karmani Sarvasa Ahankara Vimudatma Kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. There is a plan for material nature, personally known as Durga, to punish the demons. Although the Asuras, the godless demons, struggle for existence, they are directly attacked by Goddess Durga, who is well equipped with 10 hands with different types of weapons to punish them. She is carried by her lion carrier, or the modes of passion and ignorance. Everyone struggles very hard to fight through the modes of passion and ignorance and conquer material nature, but at the end, everyone is vanquished by nature's laws. There is a river known as Vaitarani between the material and spiritual worlds, and one must cross this river to reach the other side or spiritual world. This is an extremely difficult task. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Daiva hai esa gunamaye mamamaye maya durat duratyaya. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. The same word du, duratyaya meaning very difficult is used here. Therefore, one cannot surpass the stringent laws of material nature except by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, although all materialists are baffled in their plans, they try again and again to become happy in this material world. Therefore, they have been described as Vimuda, first class fools. As for Prahlad Maharaja, he was not at all unhappy, for although he was in the material world, he was full of Krishna consciousness. Those who are Krishna consciousness, trying to serve the Lord, are not unhappy. Whereas one who has no assets in Krishna consciousness and is struggling for existence and is not foolish but extremely unhappy also. Prahlada Maharaja was happy and unhappy simultaneously. He felt happiness and transcendental bliss because of his being Krishna consciousness, yet he felt great unhappiness for the fools and rascals who make elaborate plans to be happy in this material world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Yeah, so uh, yeah, we covered 3 shlokas here. So one thing we need to understand is that Prahlad Maharaj is happy and unhappy simultaneously, right? He is happy because he got the Lord's darshan, right? But he is unhappy because there are so many people who do not even have any idea about Krishna consciousness, right? They will continue to suffer. They will come back to this world. They are caught up in the vicious cycle of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death, right? So he's very happy. I mean, unhappy for those, right? So Prahlad Maharaj is saying, I want to deliver all of them, right? Prahlad Maharaj is saying, he wants to deliver all of them, right? He's actually saying to the Lord that I'm even ready to take their sins if that is what is needed, right? But take them back home, back to God. He's requesting the Lord. He's praying to the Lord in that way, right? So that's why Prabhupada says Vaishnavas are of 2 types. Okay, Bhajananandis and Ghoshtianandis. Bhajananandis are people who do devotion service for themselves, right? They are just worried about their progress. They do not care about others, right? They do their sadhana properly. They pray to the Lord and they live their life. They do not engage others or preach Krishna consciousness, right? Ghoshtianandis are people who preach. Okay, they want others also to come into Krishna consciousness, right? They want to transform the other people's life also, right? So ISKCON encourages only Ghoshtianandis, and ISKCON is a movement of Ghoshtianandis only. Bhajananandis are Babajis who are present in Vrindavan, right? They sit at the temple and they're just lost in themselves, right? They're lost in Krishna Bhakti. They sing for themselves, they chant, and they just live their life. They do not inspire others to come into Krishna consciousness, right? So we need to be Ghoshtianandis, and Prahlad represents Ghoshtianandi, right? And he is the highest level of Ghoshtianandi, right? Because he is saying, I am ready to even give up my life, right? I am ready to take their sins, but they all people in general should get delivered. That's what he's saying, right? So that means he's the highest level of Ghoshtianandi, right? And one more important thing over here is the Vaitarani river, right? There is actually a river between the spiritual world and the material world. The end of the material world, that is Brahmaloka, right? The topmost in the material world is Brahmaloka, right? So the Vaitarani river starts, okay, and it ends with Vaikunta. Vaikunta planets is the beginning of the spiritual world. After Vaikunta comes Goloka, right? So between the space, right, there is a river, Vaitarani river, and we have to cross this river if you have to go to the spiritual world. And crossing this river is not easy, right? So not there are two kinds of, so-called, I mean, not two kinds. There is another sect of spirituality, right? Which only they call it spirituality, like Mayavadis, right? It's not really spirituality, but they call it spirituality, where they say, oh, if we meditate, we'll become God, right? God is not different, we are not different, and all that they say, right? So it's impossible for them to cross this Vaitarani river and go and merge with Krishna in Goloka or in Vaikunta. Why? Because for that you need Krishna's blessings, right? Only with Krishna's blessings can you cross that ocean or that river. Okay, and one more point here is the material world is nothing but Durga Shakti, we all know, right? And Durga's carrier is lion, right? Do we know what is lion? The lion means mode of passion and ignorance. Lion is made of mode of passion and ignorance, right? That's why Durga Mata, you can see she's very powerful, right? She has killed so many demons. She's always for the protection of the of this material world, right? If you see in villages, especially, each village will have one female deity, right, to guard the entire village. They say this is the deity that guards us, right, from the demons, from the negative energy, from the ghosts, everything that deity guards, right? That female deity is nothing but expansion of Durga, right? Expansion of Durga Devi. So that's why she is in the mode of passion and ignorance. That is needed. Otherwise, she cannot fight the demons and protect the country, or protect the world, right? Material world. So, but Lord Vishnu is in the mode of, I mean, not in the mode, he's in charge of the mode of goodness, only goodness, right? So, even worships, you see, for the female deities, worship also is in the mode of passion and ignorance, right? Non-veg food is, they say Bali and all, right? So they think that she will accept, but she actually doesn't accept, right? Because she is Vaishnavi, right? She is a devotee of the Lord. She will not accept that. But people still do such kind of worships, right? And out of their innocence and devotion, sometimes she is pleased with that, and she protects that particular city and village and all that, right? We have come across all this. This happens in villages, right? So that is passion and ignorance. But for Vishnu, we don't do such worships. We do only sattvic worship, right? So here it is said, but at the end, everyone is vanquished by the nature's laws, right? By the nature's laws, everyone will be vanquished, right? So everyone struggles very hard to fight through the modes of passion and ignorance, and to conquer material nature. So Durga Devi is the material nature, right? So she is in the mode, her carrier is in the mode of passion and ignorance, so that she can protect the world and things like that. Her duty is based on that. But what are we doing? We are trying to lord over the material nature. We are trying to conquer the material nature, right? By the modes of passion and ignorance, right? And you think she will keep quiet if you do that? Because she is Krishna's property, right? She is actually considered sister of Krishna, Durga Mata, right? And she is a devotee of the Lord. And material nature, devotee will serve only Krishna. You cannot expect her to serve you, right? So we cannot conquer the material nature. So that's why at the end what happens? Everybody will be vanquished by her laws. This is very interesting, right? So let's go into the explanation. Yeah. So that river that I was talking about, right? Vaitarani River. How do you cross that? We need a boat to sail across that river and cross. And who is that boat? That boat is Krishna, right? The lotus feet of the Lord is the boat to cross that river, right? This is a very interesting shloka which describes the meaning of the word pada or feet in so many different ways, right? समाश्रिताये पदपल्लवप्लवं महत्पदं पुण्ययशो मुरारे भवाम्भुधिर्वत्स पदं परं पदं 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 यद्विपदं न तेषां right? Samashritaye padapallava plavam, right? Pallava, padapallava. So here, Samashritaye means we have to accept the Lord's lotus feet as our shelter. When we take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, right? Padapallava. Pallava means lotus feet of the Lord. Lotus, Pallava means flower, right? And Pada means lotus feet of the Lord. Plavam means boat, right? So the boat becomes, the lotus feet of the Lord becomes the boat for us to cross the ocean. Not just that ocean, that river, the ocean of worldly existence, right? The Bhavambudir or the Bhava, right? Bhavasagar, we say, the ocean of material existence. We can easily cross when we have this particular boat. We can sail across this ocean, right? And that boat is the Lord's lotus feet, and we need to take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. And the glory of such a lotus feet is that Mahat Padam Punya Yashomurare, right? Mahat Padam means even this, this material world, right? Material world has also taken shelter. The entire cosmic manifestation, okay, uh, um, has also, is also taking shelter of Murari, Punya Yasho Murare, right? Mahat Padam Punya Yasho Murare, right? Again, this Padam means the lotus feet of the Lord, the cosmic manifestation, or just now we discussed, Durga Mata is also taking the shelter of that same lotus feet of the Lord, of Murari. Can you imagine, right? And Bhavam Bhudir Vatsa Padam Param Padam, right? Bhavam Bhudir means this entire Bhavasagar that we just discussed, right? The material existence is an ocean, right? It's a very difficult ocean to cross over because of the constant waves of troubles, right? Troubles keep coming and going, troubles keep coming and going. Oh yeah, Haribol. See, Kodandaram Prabhu has said, rivers contain full of blood flows as per Garuda Puran, right? So in the form of waves, the ocean gives troubles, right? The fate that we have to face, the troubles. Sometimes we do good, but we get bad things back, right? As a result. Why? Because of our karma, accumulated past reactions, right? Which we have to face. There's no other way. If you're not a devotee, then you have to face all that. If you become a devotee, your sins will be vanquished. I mean, will be completely eradicated in a moment, right? So, Bhavam Bhudir, such a huge material existence, ocean, becomes Vatsa Padam. So here, what is this Padam indicating? Vatsa Padam means calf's hoof print. Can you imagine? Calf's hoof print. How much water do you think can a calf's hoof print contain? Maybe half a jug. Calf, that too, right? Maybe half a jug, right? This entire, the water that an ocean can contain, right, is reduced to the water that can be contained in calf's hoof print. Can you imagine? So the ocean of material world is like the water contained in calf's hoof print. If you do what? Take shelter. Samashitaye padapallava plavam. If you take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, right? Then param padam, right? And their goal is param padam, right? People who take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, their goal is param padam. They can go back home, back to Godhead, right? Where swimming across an ocean is difficult, but you don't even have to swim, across the calf's hoof print, right? What do you have to do? You just have to, you can just cross, right? With your normal walking, say you can cross, right? It's very easy, right? Krishna makes it that way. Krishna reduces that entire ocean of material existence and makes it very little, right? For you to just jump, cross, right? And then what do you do when you cross that? Where do you go? Parampadam. Parampadam is Vaikunta or Goloka, where Krishna resides personally. Okay. And what kind of place is that? Parampadam is Padam. Again, here Padam is destination. Param is ultimate destination. So here Padam is destination. Here Vatsapadam means the feet of Vatsa, calf, right? So different Padams. Can you see? Padam yad vipadam natesham. So what kind of parampadam is it? What kind of Vaikunta is what kind? Right? Padam yad vipadam natesha. So Vaikunta is a place where there are no material desires or material miseries, right? Material miseries, right? It's a place where there are no material miseries. Vipadam means miseries, natesham, not there, right? So, but here, what kind of place is this? padam padam yad vipadam tesham. Right here, every step there is a danger. Padam padam, every step. So this padam is every step in life. Padam padam, every step there is a danger. There is material misery. Right? But that is not there in the spiritual world. Right? So this is a very beautiful shloka. Right? So we have to ultimately take the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord so that we get a boat for ourselves, right? To cross over the material existence. And that feet of the Lord is so glorifying because, I mean, it is glorified so much because even Durga Shakti, right? The Mahakali or the Durga, Parvati Devi also takes shelter of that same lotus feet of Murari. Can you imagine? Right? So she is a devotee and she will help us only if we become a devotee, right? And Bhavambudir Vatsa Padam Param Padam, right? This entire material existence becomes just like water contained in calf's footprint, hoof print, right? Vatsa Padam. Param Padam. And then when you cross that, you'll go to Param Padam, that is supreme destination, right? That Padam means destination. And Padam Padam Yad Vipadam Natesham. At every step, there is no danger in Vaikuntha or Goloka. Here, there is danger at every step. Can you imagine? Right? Every step there is a danger in material world. Can we imagine the kind of life we are living? Fear, right? We don't know what happens next moment and we are struggling. We don't know how much of our financial savings can save us, but we are still going and working. False hopes, blind hopes. Can you imagine, right? Don't we, I mean, don't we feel somewhere in our heart, when does all this end? When can we go back home, back to Godhead? Right? That is the first step of Athato Brahma Jignasa. When you get that thought, you will start taking Krishna consciousness seriously. Right? And special quality of a pure devotee, we discussed, right? Bhajananandis and Goshtyanandis. Right? So here Prahlad represents this pure devotee, quality, special quality. What is it? Para Dukkha Dukhi. Okay. Para Dukkha Dukhi. Para Dukkha means looking at others' dukkha or problems, you start worrying, right? That is Para Dukkha Dukhi. But here in the material world, what do? We are all Para Dukkha Sukhi. When we see others' problems, oh, very nice, he's suffering, no? Let him suffer. I'm not suffering, I'm happy. Right? That is the kind of mentality we have. But pure Vaishnavas means they have this special quality. Not very rarely people get this quality, right? All realized souls, acharyas, Prabhupada, all of them have this special quality. What is it? Paradukka Dukhi. That's why they went they went over and beyond and started preaching, right? Prabhupada preached to hippies. He went without money to abroad, right? America, I didn't know what to do, right? Everybody, Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, right? What is he doing? He goes to hospitals and preaches to doctors there, right? He doesn't simply go to take treatment and come. When, like, I think I've discussed this, physiotherapy sessions, when doctor comes and says, lift your leg and all, lift your hand, he used to say, I'm not going to lift. You say Hare Krishna Mahamantra once, I will lift my leg, right? That's what he used to say. And in overall physiotherapy session, he used to make that doctor chant at least 108 times Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Can you imagine? So one round is over. Can you imagine? So they go to hospitals. So otherwise, if Guru Maharaj had not admitted in the hospital, those doctors would have never got an opportunity to chant or get in contact with such a devotee association, right? Sadhu. So they, wherever they go, if they're put in a place to preach and transform that place, right? Such is a quality of Ghoshyanandis, or special quality of pure devotees. And Prahlad Maharaj is exactly like that. He went to Gurukul, he made all his friends devotees, right? All demons, Rakshasa Kula devotees, people, they all became devotees, right? And yeah, so here it's said, no, Krishna is actually more anxious. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. That's just a reason, right? When adharma predominates, Krishna comes, but that is just a reason. What's the real reason? Paritranaya sadhuna, right? To protect the devotees, Krishna comes. When adharma is predominating, one Sudarshan will do the task. Why does Krishna has to come? Sudarshan can kill all the demons and protect the devotees. But Krishna comes personally, like, say, for example, your child has gone to school. Okay, teachers are all there to take care. But suppose okay, he's your child is not well, having some cough and cold. Teachers are there to take care, but you also want to personally go and see, oh, how is my child doing? Is he taking his medicines? Right? So that way, Sudarshan is there, but Krishna wants to personally come and take care of the devotees, right? Because he loves us so much, right? So if you take one step towards Krishna, Krishna takes 10 steps towards you. He's always ready to help us. But are we taking that help? Right? Krishna actually, what happens in the heart every day? Soul and super soul are next to each other, right? In the heart. It seems that Paramatma actually keeps talking to the soul. It's called the inner voice and everything, conscious and everything, conscience and everything, right? So it seems Paramatma keeps talking to the soul or the Atma, but Atma is deaf, completely deaf, not hearing to Paramatma at all, right? So when it seems that means what? Krishna is more eager to take us back home, back to Godhead. It's not that we are eager. Krishna is 100 times more eager, right? And it's also said, Prahlad Maharaj says to Hiranyakashipu, right? When Hiranyakashipu questions, what did you learn in Gurukul and all that? Why are you chanting Vishnu's name and all? Then Prahlad Maharaj says, Matirna Krishne Paratasvatova Mito Abhipadyeta Grahavratanam Adantagobhirvishatantamesram Punap Punascharvita Charvananam. So what does he say? He says, because of your uncontrolled, he's actually addressing this to Hiranyakashipu, okay? So he's saying, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish conditions, right? Tamishra means hell, okay? And repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed, means material enjoyment, right? If you eat, say you eat 10 gulab jamuns and you get loose motions, when you do that, you will have to face a consequence, health consequence. Next time, maybe after a month, again, you will not hesitate. You will again go and eat 10 gulab jamuns. Punas charvita charvananam. Right? There is no happiness. You're not getting happiness from the material world. Still, we go behind it. Like the fireflies, right? Flies go and fall into the fire and lose their life. Right? Not the fireflies. Normal flies also, right? They go and fall into the fire and lose their life, right? They're not supposed to do that. Repeatedly, they do that, right? So their inclinations towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by combination of both. Matirna Krishna. Matirna Krishne Parata Svatova. Parata means others' efforts. Svatova, your own efforts. Mitho Abhipadya. Mitho means both your and others' efforts. No result. You can never get inclined to Krishna if you are highly addicted to materialistic way of life, right? If you do not have the attitude of giving to Krishna, if you just have the attitude of enjoying everything, taking from Krishna, then such people can never get inclination towards Krishna conscious activities, okay? And that is because the main reason is uncontrolled senses. That is what we begin the class with, right? I just finish this slide and we will finish in the class, okay? So this is a beautiful shloka again. We've discussed this a lot of times. Gopi Bharti or Padakamalya or Dasa Dasa Anudasa. Right? I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a Kshatriya, I'm not a Vaishya, I'm not a Shudra. So all these things are just material positions. What are we really? We are really Gopi Bharti or Padakamalya or Dasa Dasa Anudasa. Servant of the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna. Right? So he is like an ocean of nectar and he is the cause of universal transcendental bliss. He's always existing with brilliance. Okay, that is our position, right? So we can get Krishna by dasa dasa anudasa, by serving the devotees of the devotees of Krishna, right? Devotees of Krishna. That means devotee association. That wherever devotees are, go there and serve, associate with devotees, right? Even Prabhupada says association of devotees means association with the Lord himself. It's not different. So the devotee who takes this association develops the consciousness for rendering service to the Lord. As you render service to devotees, you will develop that service attitude for Krishna also, right? And then being situated in the transcendental position of devotion service, it gradually becomes perfect. This is the medicine, right? And also one more point that is touched upon in the purport is that Narayana Parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati. Swarga apavarga narakeshva api tulyartha darshinaha. Devotees who are engaged in devotional service, whether they are in hell or heaven, right? or in merged with Brahmajyoti, right? Liberated, liberated state. They are only interested in devotion service of the Lord, right? Wherever they are, whether they are in hell or heaven, they are only interested in devotional service. Like Haridas Thakur, right? What did Haridas Thakur do? He was actually beaten up in 22 marketplaces, right? He was beaten up and he was thrown into a river thinking he's dead, right? That's what all the Muslim Islamic kings did, right? And when in that kind of state of mind and body, what was he doing? He got up and he started chanting in the middle of the river on the shore. He went to the bank of the river and he's sitting and he's chanting. Can you imagine? Everybody was shocked. He was beaten up to death. How did he become alive? Right? We thought he died only, right? So whether they are in hell or heaven, their duty is to chant and serve the Lord. That's what they do. That's the only thing they do. Can you imagine? Right? It's beyond our even capacity to imagine. Right? Same thing. These are the examples. Hell or heaven, hellish condition. Bhishma Dev is sleeping on bed of arrows, right? And completely, can you see so much of blood flow and everything? But what is he doing? He's chanting the holy name of the Lord. I mean, he wants to see the Lord, Parthasarthi form of the Lord. He's waiting to die, right? But only after seeing the Lord. He has Ichcha Maran, right? He can die whenever he wants to die. But what is he waiting for? He wants to see the Lord before dying. He wants to offer prayers to the Lord before dying. That's the next prayers we'll be learning after Prahlad Maharaj's prayers. We'll be learning Bhishma Stuti. Okay? So we will understand how beautiful his prayers were to the Lord. He was waiting for that, right? Even in hellish condition of life. Vritrasur, he's a demon, right? Demon, but a devotee of the Lord. He was a devotee, Chitraketu Maharaj, then he became Gandharva, then he was cursed to become a demon. And even in the demon state, he was fighting with Indra and he's saying, Indra, kill me, kill me. I just want to die fast so that I can go back home, back to Godhead. Right? Can you imagine? Right? He's a demoniac state of life is the worst state of life. Right? But in that worst state of life, he's remembering Krishna. Can you imagine? Right? That's the takeaway, is that whatever condition, wherever we are in, our job is to control our senses, as in engage, invest our senses only in Krishna conscious activities. Okay? Now we will be doing it as a sadhana, but later it's going to become our nature. Okay? Start something, what do you call? Explicitly, extraneously you start, but after, some time it's going to become a part of you. Right? It's become your nature. It's going to become your nature, not just a habit. Right? Start as a habit, but make it a habit and then it will become your nature. Right? So on this note, I'll end the class. Any questions? Any doubts? Anybody? No questions? Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, one question.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Bali, they give Pashu Bali, later take it as prasad.
Sorry, you're not audible.
Mataji, in Devi temples and all, animal Bali is given. To whom this Bali is given actually?
So there, it's actually not a prescribed way of worshipping. No Shastra says Devi needs animals, but local people, no, they give it as Bali for the Devi. Okay, because they have the desire, no, to eat non-veg food and all that. But so they say, okay, we'll eat non-veg. We'll just offer it to the Devi and call it prasadam and have. Just a tamasic way of worship, Mataji. It's not prescribed. And it is not supposed to be done. First of all, Devi doesn't accept it. We just saw she's a devotee of the Lord. She's Vaishnavi. She's Vaishno Devi, right? So she's a vegetarian. She will not accept all this. But it's people who do all this in the name of religion. They do all this. Okay.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.